So that's it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Do you have book one on the desk as well, by any chance?
Uh-huh. Well, there's book
There
one.
you go.
So there's
There
the
you
two of
go.
them. Yeah. I never thought I'd be holding up two novels like this.
We are back again with Steve Grant, who was a client that we worked with on his first book, and some of you might even remember the original interview that we did for False Tidings. And now we're back to talk to Steve again because we got some good news because the second book has just come out. Second book in the Fool's Journey series, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yep. And this book this time around is called Witch Hunt. Very quick recap of the first book.
It's sort of fantasy representations of medieval Italy. William is this hero who wanders into this viper's nest of people who are competing to get a mythical crystal, which
Yeah.
turned out not to be so mythical. And I wanted to write something that was an outright introvert as hero. You don't get many of those, do you? They're always kind of like these wonderful, huge muscled
Yeah.
characters, whether it's male or female. They're wonderful. They're swashbuckling and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like I wanted the anti-hero, somebody that would rather really be curled up at home with a book.
And the journey this time around was interesting because with your first book, you came to us a little bit later into the process. We were
Mm,
working with you, I think, after you had quite a bit drafted and figured out already. Whereas with this second book, I think we went together pretty much from scratch.
we did, yeah.
Was there were there advantages that you found in having the help from an earlier stage?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't have the time to cement stuff in place that then is difficult to shift. And I did a lot of rewriting in book one. I lost a lot of the content because it just didn't work. But
Right, right,
there
right.
were still things that, wouldn't be there if I started again.
Yeah.
So this time it's sort of a much cleaner, better structured novel from the outset. I think that was your first comment when you read it.
Yeah.
First
Yeah.
draft, was it? It made more sense as a novel. Uh,
Almost, I think almost everybody that we've worked with over multiple books, the sequel tends to be just a little bit stronger than the first book. And I think because you, as the author, have gotten a better grasp on the tools and how everything fits together, and you've got a slightly better grasp on the craft now, I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Was there something in particular, like a lesson that you took from book one that you really wanted to make sure you got right in book two?
Um, I actually forgot a couple of really important lessons from book one.
Right.
I had to go back and address them. So I'd forgotten that you need to take account of things like the three act story structure, or yeah, I mean, there's several structures out there. You can do Save the Cat or two or
Yeah.
three others as well.
Yeah.
But I'd forgotten to use those same kind of elements that help you structure, help you pace. I think it's as much about pacing as anything is getting the using
Yeah.
these structures. And I'd completely missed that I needed to have a midpoint where everything changes.
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
that's gone into the final draft certainly of Witch Hunt. So yeah, I mean it's one thing learning a lesson, it's another thing cementing it in place and actually making it stick.
I think I think that it's really interesting that you say that because I think sometimes people feel that, if you go on YouTube, it's all there, all the theory is there, but then when you actually sit down and start writing, it doesn't necessarily all translate through into the book. I think it takes time for these things to permeate. And you'll probably find that on book three it comes even more naturally to you than it did with the first two. But
Hmm.
I also find it really interesting what you were saying about the midpoint because I think sometimes we just go straight at the page and we say, let me just get all my ideas on there. But then when you go back and you start to look at the structure and the beats that are expected from a novel, you start to realize actually when those things are missing, it does feel like something's just a bit off. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The middle, that middle section, it feels too slow. It doesn't feel interesting enough. Why? And then you realize, it's because one of those key ingredients, those emotional notes that you need to hit just isn't in there. We missed it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that.
I mean, another thing, I've become pretty obsessive about scene structure now, and I know it's not a key element of the course,
Yeah,
but the way you draw somebody into a scene is as important as you way you draw them into a novel. You've
right,
got to introduce the scene. There's got to be an obvious point to it pretty much straight away. There's
right,
got to be a goal. There's got to be conflict. There needs to be rising tension. There needs to be a climax. I mean,
right.
it's not unlike writing a novel.
You're right.
But when those things aren't there, actually, a scene is pretty flat. It's quite dull
Yeah,
to read.
yeah, yeah,
And it's that kind of conflict, especially I loved conflict between characters. You know,
yeah.
you get two people who clearly their objectives, their purposes don't quite align, and they're both sort of shooting up and like they're probing around each other, and those are really fun to read and definitely fun to write.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I think the biggest difference that it's interesting because people watching your second interview will actually be able to see how you've evolved since the first interview as a writer. Because when I'm listening to you talk, you're using way more technical terms. You're clearly more knowledgeable now, and you have a better grasp on what you're doing. So it's really fascinating to see that. Can we see the front cover real quick?
Yep. So that's it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Love
Does it
it.
does it come out the right way on the video? Does it
Yeah, yeah,
come?
yeah. It does. It does. Do you have book one on the desk as well, by any chance?
Uh-huh. Well, there's book
There
one.
you go.
So there's
There
the
you
two of
go.
them. Yeah. I never thought I'd be holding up two novels like this.
Yeah.
Like
How great is that, right?
amazing.
I guess what I was wondering about is if you feel that you're gathering a kind of momentum when it comes to producing these books.
I mean, definitely the confidence is there. People have commented actually the writing itself is more confident. You know, I'm more
Yeah.
confident on the page, and I'm surprised that comes through, but it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, probably found my voice a bit better, and your voice is a very, very sort of elusive thing to, you know, get your finger. What is it really? But
Yeah.
it definitely develops as you get on. And which is not to say, you know, I can look back at the first book and I can still recognize the writing is definitely me. You can look at. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing I love about it. I can look at a page, that's me. No,
Yeah.
that's straight
Yeah.
up. But
Yeah.
it's just I'm more confident in expressing that. And
Beautiful.
you know, no weird description needs to happen, no introspection needs to happen.
Yeah.
It becomes much more instinctive, and you kind of get more instinctive about how to pace a scene. You know, where it needs to start to gather pace, or you know,
Right.
when the whole thing needs to slow down and be more reflective. I mean, that's all experience and craft, obviously.
Yes,
So
exactly.
those things all come.
Well, I have a zero doubt that we'll be doing an interview about a third book and a fourth book at some point soon because it does look like you've gathered momentum, confidence, you're better at what you're doing, and I think you'll continue to thrive. It's
Good.
really good to
Thank
see.
you.
Yeah. Great. Okay, Steve. Well, we can wrap this interview up and let's let people know where to find the book. You want to hold it up one more time? If
Yeah.
anyone is interested in picking up either book one or book two of Steve's series, you can find both of them on Amazon. They exclusively on Amazon?
Yeah, they are at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I'll put a link to them above the video so that you can just click and go and check out the book and let Steve know what you think.
That
So
would be brilliant. Yeah, sign up to the newsletter and please send me an email. Let me know what you think of it.
fabulous. All right. Thank you, Steve.